6 games on tap for tonight in MLB DFS on the main slate, and Jacob deGrom is the top pitcher. What could possibly go wrong? Welcome on in to the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to break down this Monday night main slate. Locks at 7:05 over on FanDuel.com. We are talking pitchers, stacks, one-offs, process, whatever it may be. You can ask it. This is our final week of the MLB DFS Q&A for this year, so let's go with a bang and have some good lineups for this week. As always, no matter where you are watching this Q&A, get those questions in. We'll get them answered live here on the air to get you set for tonight's slate. You can ask them in the YouTube in the chat section. We're also taking questions from Facebook, Twitch, and from Periscope as well. So get those questions in no matter what is on your mind for tonight's slate. But also don't forget to subscribe wherever you're watching this, because it's not just the DFS Q&As at 4 p.m. Eastern every day throughout the week. We also have our waiver wire Q&A that is tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. in this exact same spot. So with myself and JJ Zachariason, it's going to be a loaded show for tomorrow with all the craziness and then the unfortunate things that have happened in NFL this week. So a lot to discuss tomorrow. JJ, that is at 3:30. We'll follow immediately after with the MLB DFS Q&A. And then we will also be talking on Friday, our snake draft, live draft on air. That's Friday at 3:30 with myself, JJ Zachariason, and Brandon Gadula. Your boys 2-0 so far in the snake draft, so we're off to a good start there as well. So make sure you're subscribed, whether it be YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, or Facebook, wherever you're watching. Make sure you're subscribed and get those questions in. First question is on Facebook from Larry. Needs 17 points, Jacobs tonight, PPR. It's not a question, Larry, but I like it. I think that you should be on the borderline there, especially if Jacobs continues to get all the targets he got in week number 1. Aaron is asking for the top pitchers and stacks for tonight. To me, it's all about Jacob deGrom. I think that deGrom is in a tier of his own. I would say that he is number 1 by a pretty wide margin. So Jacob deGrom, I think kind of just the no-brainer guy for tonight. I know last start was bad. Believe me, I'm very aware how bad it was. But he had that hamstring spasm. He was able to throw a couple bullpens between that start and this one. So it seems like he's good to go. I wouldn't worry too much about pitch count because deGrom went 102, I think, pitches 2 starts ago, 40 pitches in that hamstring game. So I would expect he's still able to go like 100 or so for tonight. So I think deGrom pretty easily the number 1 pitcher for tonight. Outside of that, I think you're kind of dropping down and looking for something else and trying to decide who you want to have as your number 2 pitcher. I have Lance McCullers number 2 personally. Facing Seattle, he's pretty volatile. You can get some really bad days at a Lance McCullers at times, but he does have single game upside. If I'm going with deGrom in cash games, I can focus on just upside in tournaments. I know McCullers has that. My third pitcher is risky and could go really poorly. Like I said this morning in the solo shot, I think you can justify stacking against him if you want, but I like Trevor Rogers. He's a guy who gets a lot of strikeouts. He's made 5 starts so far in the majors, 30% strikeout rate, 12.5% swinging strike rate. His strikeout rate will come down as the sample expands, but the Braves, although being a very good offense, they are a team that is very willing, very willing to strike out. See the Braves here, 92 WRC plus against lefties, but a 28% strikeout rate. The WRC plus is not stabilized yet, so I wouldn't put a ton of stock in that, but the strikeout rate at 28%, that I can put stock in. They're going to strike out at times, so it's very risky to use Rogers. Like I said, I think you can very easily justify stacking the Braves for tonight. But for me personally, if I had to choose between stacking against him and using him as my pitcher, I kind of don't mind using him as my pitcher. So I think that Rogers is very interesting. Mateo just asked about Atlanta's bats. Again, like I said, you can stack them. I just think that with the strikeouts Rogers will get, that's going to limit balls in play. So they are a legitimate option for stacking. I just like Rogers as a pitcher, so I'm probably going to skew that way. But again, like he could go poorly. His ERA is 6, so like you could definitely go to the Braves, Mateo. For me personally, I kind of think Rogers is pretty interesting as long as you're okay with the risk. If you don't like risk, do not touch Trevor Rogers because, again, like I said, it could go very poorly, but the upside is there too. Jason, I am curious about using Castillo. Hard to pay up for bats. Hard to pay for bats on the early slate. I haven't looked at the early slate, Jason. So just throwing that out there. I've not looked at the early slate. I've been busy all day with PGA stuff, so I've not had time to look at the early slate. I'm probably going to be a pretty bad resource there. I honestly don't know what's going on there. I don't know who's facing whom. I guess we could take an early look here. The early slate. Castillo's facing the Brewers. Yeah, I think that works. Gibson did really well against the Astros last time, so I'm a little gun shy about stacking against him, but still, I think that if you're talking about Luis Castillo, I think that's fine. But again, I've done no research on the early-only slate. I've been focusing just on the main slate because I've been busy, so unfortunately, my insights here are not that valuable. Aaron, why did FanDuel get rid of KBO? I enjoyed that. I think it was a stat provider issue. Like, they always had to manually enter the stats after the games, and that probably wasn't the best user experience. So I think that makes sense. It was fun. I enjoyed researching it, but it was definitely harder to find data. So for me personally, I just like having easy access to data, and my KBO stats is amazing, and it was a really good site to lean on. I just like having multiple sources for data and making it easier. So I think it makes sense. If they're going to run smaller contests, might as well just focus all their efforts over on MLB, because it does require a lot of focus and effort to keep stuff like that going. And it makes sense to focus more on MLB, NBA, and now, of course, NFL too. Michael, Rodgers over Wainwright. Is this an Aaron Rodgers thing? Trevor Rodgers. Okay, so I was confused. I saw the D in there, and I was like, Aaron Rodgers? I think that I prefer Rodgers over Wainwright personally. Wainwright, if you're looking for floor, Adam Wainwright's better, because Adam Wainwright is a better real-world pitcher. So if you're looking for a floor suggestion, Adam Wainwright will be the better play. But Adam Wainwright is also $9,500, so you're not getting as much of a discount from Jacob deGrom, whereas the Rodgers, you're getting a massive discount from Jacob deGrom. And I don't think the strikeout juice is really there. Wainwright's had some good starts recently. I think he had 115 or so pitches recently. He had 9 strikeouts there. He had 9 strikeouts there as well. So he can go deep into games, and that's why he's a good floor play. And there's a path to a ceiling, but if I can get a similar path for just $7,200, Rodgers had 10 strikeouts a couple of starts ago. So his individual game upside is really good. Yeah, 10 strikeouts there against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a high strikeout offense, but so is Atlanta. So I honestly think that Rodgers is in play. Again, do not use Trevor Rodgers if you are scared about the way that game can play out, because I think that it could go very poorly. That's why, again, I think that Mateo's on Atlanta's bats. I don't think that's off base by any means, but I'm looking for upside. Rodgers has it, so I like him in tournaments for tonight. Alvin, top stacks for tonight. I think that St. Louis pretty easily is number 1 for me. Facing Carlos Hernandez, who's coming up from low A. We've seen a couple of guys like Brady Singer coming up from high A, but Hernandez is coming up from low A, and his numbers down in low A weren't terrible. He had a 3.50 ERA, but now you're making the jump all the way to the big leagues and facing big league hitters. And so far, Hernandez, good ERA, but the peripheral numbers on him, not all that inspiring. A low strikeout rate. His swinging strike rate is 8.8%, so you don't expect that strikeout rate to get a whole lot higher. He's not a big ground ball guy either. So I would say, if I am tiering out the stacks for tonight, I would say that the Cardinals are in a tier of their own. Everyone else is kind of fighting for second place among the stacks. So to me, it's the Cardinals number 1. I would say number 2 for stacking for tonight. I like the Marlins quite a bit. This is under the mindset of I need to find salary savings to get to Jacob deGrom. And the Marlins give me that. They're facing Huascar Ynoa. Ynoa lets up a lot of hard contact, lets up some base runners too. So I think that bodes well for the Marlins. The Marlins, they've been okay. 95 WRC plus against righties, 24% strikeout rate. So I think that Huascar Ynoa is definitely someone who is stackable or stack againstable. Is that the word we'll go with here? I think we can stack against him for tonight. So I'd say the Marlins are going to be number 2. Number 3, I have the Cubs against JT Brubaker. We actually just got a question about Brubaker from Dan's Guitar on Periscope. I would rather stack against Brubaker than use him as my pitcher, partly because The Cubs are good, and it's a slate where there aren't a lot of offense that I feel all that good about. So like the quality of the team makes me feel good. If you're trying to justify using Brubaker as a pitcher, it's a bit of a tougher sell because doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. See a strikeout rate here. I think this is past 4 starts. Yeah, past 4 starts where his pitch count has been all the way up. His strikeout rate is 23%. That's not all that high. If I'm going with someone who is going to do a good job of limiting hard contact and stuff like that, I'd rather just go Lance McCullers. So I would say I'm not really on a Brubaker. I think I'd rather go with the upside of Rogers, even though Rogers' floor is not that good. So I am going with the Cubs as my number 3 stack for tonight. Aaron says Castillo over DeGrom. Castillo's not on the main slate, so we don't have to worry about it. Brad, lower salaried pitcher. Who do you like stacking? So again, I think that for the lower, honestly, like Lance McCullers counts as a lower salaried pitcher. He's $8,700, and you can do a lot of damage with Lance McCullers at 87. If you plug him in here, you've got 3288 left. That's actually quite a bit. So honestly, I think that McCullers at $8,700 is a good value play for tonight. He's my number 2 pitcher straight up. So getting him at 87, I think, is pretty intriguing. Again, pretty volatile. He can have some bad starts for sure and has had those at times this year, but it's a good matchup. Not a bad park for pitching. He does have that upside. So I would say it's McCullers number 2. And then if you want to dip down even lower, Rogers would be the guy I'd consider down at $7,200. So if you want a value pitcher, Lance McCullers. And again, stacks for today, Cardinals, Marlins, and the Cubs. If you have a lot of salary and you want to stack against Trevor Rogers, I think that's okay. Again, I think that, he has a 6 ERA for a reason. He is a guy who's coming up from the low minors, so it does require a bit of a projection, but I just prefer to use him potentially as a pitcher in tournaments for tonight. All right. Aaron says, Wong and Miller let me down the other night. Can they do it tonight? Yeah, Brad Miller actually has had really good results overall this year. I wouldn't go with Wong. Wong's not really a guy I tend to use. The upside there is not that great. A 30% hard hit rate and a 31% fly ball rate against righties. But Brad Miller, 35% hard hit rate and a 36% fly ball rate. That'll work. And he's also had actually good results for the full sample so far this year. Let's see if the lineup is out yet for the Cardinals for today. And it is not. But I'd assume that Miller's probably going to bat 4th or so. So Miller, $2,900, someone I'm willing to turn to for tonight as being he's kind of a value play at $2,900, but I think he helps you get to DeGrom, which is the way that I'd probably view it. So I think that Miller is someone I'll go back to. Tyler O'Neill has been hitting 5th or 6th or 7th, somewhere around there, against righties for the most part recently. He's also a bit lower salary. The strikeout rate has come down. It's 28%. That's better than it was previously. Fly ball rate's still 44%. So I'd say that if you're looking for some value, let's go with DeGrom here. And then let's go. I do like Brad Miller, like I said. We are going to plug in O'Neill. And then I'm going to go with Tommy Edman too. Let's check out Edman's numbers. The batted ball numbers won't tell the full story for Edman because he does have some speed. 26% fly ball rate is definitely not what you're looking for by any means against righties so far this year. But like I said, he can have some upside in other departments. 2 stolen bases so far this year. He had 15 last year. So I think Edman works. If you're trying to get to DeGrom, he's someone I'd be willing to target. $2,900. So if you got those 3 guys, you're still not super comfortable getting to DeGrom. But with the Marlins in there too, I think that should work. For sure. Aaron says, Miami left-handed batters. Yes, I agree. I think that they are in a good spot against Inoa. Corey Dickerson is $2,800 batting leadoff once again. So I would say that Dickerson for sure is a guy I'd be looking to target for tonight. May, is McCullers worth it tonight? Yeah, like I said before, I think that he's the number 1 guy below $9,000, and he's my number 1 guy after Jacob deGrom for tonight. Because if you're looking for safety, you just go to Grom. It's very easy for me. Despite the injury, I still think he is the safest pitcher on the board. So if you're looking for safety, go to Grom. Outside of that, you're looking for upside. And McCullers has that upside with all the strikeouts he can get. So I would say McCullers is very much worth it for tonight. $8,700 allows you to go with guys like it allows you to get to Paul Goldschmidt, Paul DeJong within those Cardinal stacks. So I think McCullers is worth it for sure. All right, Michael's asking for batters I like on the Cardinals and the Marlins. Went through that with the Cardinals earlier, so let's go through the Marlins here. I think their lineup is out because we saw Dickerson in there before, so let's pull up Corey Dickerson over here, or pull up the Marlins lineup. Yeah, so we got Dickerson, Starling Marte, Jesus Aguilar, Brian Anderson, Garrett Cooper. Okay, so we know the lineup here. One thing I will say is that I am not in on Matthew Joyce. He's batting fourth, which may make him seem like a value play. I think he's $2,400. Yeah, batting fourth, $2,400. That seems like a really good value. The problem is that he leaves games early for defensive replacements or pinch hitters or whatever it may be pretty often. You can find this by going to Baseball Reference and pulling up his game logs. And when you do that, you can see GS to 5 means that he started that game but was yanked in the 5th inning. That was not a doubleheader. A lot of the games where he gets yanked early are sometimes doubleheaders. This one was not. He got yanked in the 7th there, yanked in the 5th there, doubleheader, yanked in the 3rd there, part of a doubleheader. So he is very risky where he could leave the game pretty early. And as a result of that, I am not super anxious to use Matt Joyce. I think there are other options I can use from a value perspective where I can happily avoid him. So Joyce seems like a good value, and he might be. Like, again, he could pay off. Like, he could hit a home run in his first plate appearance, but I want that more assured volume. Joyce has not had more than 4 plate appearances in a game since September 10th, so I'd rather go for the sure volume and skip over Matt Joyce. So I think, to me, it's more so looking at guys like Corey Dickerson. Let's put DeGrom in here once again. And then let's go with Dickerson. Just kind of build this one out here. We got Dickerson at $2,800. Brian Anderson, let me check out his numbers here against righties. I think the results have been good, but the peripherals maybe not as sterling for Anderson. 41% hard hit rate, 30% fly ball rate. A lot of strikeouts, but that's fine. So I think I'm actually okay going with Anderson there. I do like Jesus Aguilar. Let's see what the numbers are for Aguilar so far this year. I missed it. Okay, there we go. 37% hard hit rate, 40% fly ball rate, not a lot of strikeouts. Heck yeah, man, let's go. Jesus Aguilar there. So if you're pairing this team with the Cardinals, you can actually make that work pretty easily. And I think that that's probably what I would be most inclined to do. It doesn't appear as if there are any extreme value plays in the Marlins for tonight, but again, outside of Matt Joyce, and I am not really trying to get there. So I would say these are the main 3 guys for me on the Marlins. Between Garrett Cooper and Starling Marte, I'd probably just go with Marte. Cooper in a semi-small sample, not a lot of fly balls this year. Marte can get some stolen bases, not a lot of strikeouts, puts a lot of balls in play. So I think that for me, these are the top 3 guys, and then I would go with Marte as my 4th option within this one. Tech. FanDuel is a lot better than DraftKings. Thanks for being great. I don't know. Did FanDuel pay you, Tech? If so, well done. You'll get your check in the mail. May, how many games does Bauer have left? I don't know. I don't pay attention to rotations a lot. I can't look ahead a lot because I'm not a huge season-long guy. I play season long, but my main focus is daily fantasy. So I have no idea when his spot in the rotation is up next. But most people cannot have more, max out at 2. So it's either 1 or 2 for Trevor Bauer left. Aaron says Wainwright better than McCullers, and Brian also says Wainwright way better value. I guess I understand where you're coming from with loving Adam Wainwright. Because, again, the Royals are definitely not great. 89 WRC plus for them, 25% strikeout rate. But, this number here is, not all that encouraging. A 21% strikeout rate. I think this is for this is the past 6 starts. So, in the past 6 starts for Wainwright, a 21% strikeout rate. That's not really going to do it for me, especially when I do have guys on this same slate who can get strikeouts. McCullers is cheaper. He's lower salaried, I should say, than Wainwright. Doesn't go as deep into games. His pitch count probably going to sit around 90 to 95 or so. And that does matter for sure. Wainwright can go super deep into games, but I just like McCullers more. So I save salary. I like his talent more personally. I like the matchup a little bit more. So I would go with McCullers personally. Brian, Sorry. I skipped over one here. Brian is not into DeGrom, changing release on his pitches. Has not looked great. Over his past 6 starts? Let's see. Past 5 starts, sorry. His past 5 starts, he has a 41% strikeout rate. I think he looks pretty good. I would disagree with that one there. 9-run implied total in the game for the Braves. Again, it's because I don't think Rogers is going to let up a lot of balls in play. I know the results are really bad. But if you're looking at a 5-start sample, it's better to look at the peripherals. And the peripherals say that Trevor Rogers is a guy who can get a lot of strikeouts, mostly because he's gotten a lot of strikeouts. Those are going to stabilize a lot more quickly. The swinging strike rate will also stabilize a lot more quickly. Again, I know his ERA is really bad. That's probably why the implied total in that game is going to be high. I think the Braves might have one of the highest implied totals on the slate. Like if we pull up this, I think I'm logged in. If we pull up the heat map here and look at the implied totals for offenses, I'm guessing the Braves are probably going to be near the top of the list. I just want to stack teams that I project to get more balls in play. Yeah, they're second behind the Cardinals. I want teams that are going to get more balls in play. So personally, I'm not going there. I think that it is okay to stack the Braves. For me personally, if I'm being fully honest and upfront with you, I'm not going to get there as often as other people will. Instead, I want to use Rogers as a pitcher, see what happens. He can get strikeouts. That's good for fantasy. So that's why I'm not as high on the Braves. Aaron, favorite shortstop? Probably Paul DeJong, I think, is going to be up there for me just because he's in a team that I want to stack, and stacks pretty much rule everything for me. So I would say it's probably going to wind up being DeJong number 1. Other guys, I looked into Eric Gonzalez earlier today because he's facing John Lester, and I couldn't really convince myself to do it, but like he's not like someone who's totally off the map, I wouldn't say. His results this year, am I just like typing this wrong? Anyway, his results this year, I did spell it wrong. Sorry, Eric. His results this year have been better, but like the peripheral numbers still are not all of that intriguing. I know he's facing a lefty, which is definitely a good thing, but it's not really enough to draw me in. 145 ISO, 35% hard hit rate. Like he's fine if you need to save salary, but I think that I'd rather try to find the salary to get up to DeJong. So that's probably the way I'm viewing shortstop for today is mainly in on Paul DeJong as being my top shortstop. I think that Gonzalez works if you want to get a value play. Javier Baez's numbers are pretty bad so far this year, but like Javier Baez, we know has the ability to have like a 40-point game, and that's valuable. So I'm not putting Baez super high on my list, kind of similar to Chris Bryant, where like I buy into the peripherals and the peripherals don't say great things about them so far this year, but he can have games like that, and every batter has a low floor. So I think that's where I'm looking at things for tonight. So probably DeJong, but then would consider Baez and would consider Gonzalez as well. Sarugi asked for the top teams to stack. Again, I think it's the Cardinals number 1 pretty easily for me. I would say that the Marlins are probably 2, and then the Cubs number 3 for me. Big E, any interest in the Pirates against Leicester? Tons of lower salaried options, and Leicester's numbers are just horrible. All the advanced numbers say that we can stack against him. Yes. Okay. So we talked about this in the solo shot this morning. I think the Pirates are in play as having options. The reason that I'm not as high on them is that Leicester's had some weird pop starts recently. Like he had 2 straight starts over the past couple of weeks where his swinging strike rate was like 14%. And when you have that capability against normal teams, you can probably do it against the Pirates. Now, like you said, the Pirates are a better offense against lefties than they are against righties. That's why I am okay with stacking the Pirates. But he has had some pop starts, and those were concerning enough for me where I put the Pirates down on my list. I did not cross them off by any means. So that's why I decided to go a little bit lower with them. But I do think that they're in play. Brian Hayes, I think here, he's batting second. I think Brian Reynolds is in the leadoff spot as well. So I think I think those are 2 guys I would turn to. Again, Gonzalez is fine. I don't know what Josh Bell's numbers are against lefties so far this year. I know he's had a bad year overall, but maybe it's just one side of the swing for him. So let's pull up the Pirates numbers against lefties. This will be a small sample, so we don't want to put a ton of stock in it, but we can get at least a quick little read on what Josh Bell has done against lefties. And 38% hard hit rate, but not enough fly balls, a lot of strikeouts. So, yeah, I would say probably Reynolds and Hayes, main guys for me against Leicester. Sarugi says, Baez says he's struggling because he can't look at video replays of his bats anymore in the dugout. Yeah, I think, was it Josh Donaldson or someone was talking about that too? The same thing where like they were big film guys and they would look at their stuff between plate appearances, and that was why they were struggling. Javier Baez is like one of the most like technical dudes of all time. Like you just watch him play and you're like, the fundamentals are really good. So I think that makes a lot of sense. It's definitely a viable thing. Maybe that's an explanation for Chris Bryant too, outside of the injuries. So I think that is definitely interesting. And I think that's worth considering as well. May, do you recommend Birdie if you need some stolen bases? I don't know, because I'm not a huge season-long person, unfortunately. Mostly focused on DFS. Birdie, like he could work for DFS, but not a main priority. I think he's batting 8th for tonight, if I recall correctly. So definitely not at the top of my list, but I'm not the right person to ask for season long, unfortunately. That is all the time that we have for today. Like I said, it's a pretty fun slate, but it does kind of depend on the way you like to look at things. If you are okay with risk, you have some really fun options for tonight with Lance McCullers and Trevor Rogers. If you don't like risk and just want a decent score and you want to, get him in cash, Adam Wainwright works for sure. And I think you can go there. But I think that it's DeGrom. And then I want to go upside with McCullers and Rogers and kind of see what happens. I don't really tend to gravitate towards the Wainwright type plays, but it sounds like most of you do. Follow your process. If your process says Wainwright, follow it. My process does not say that, so I'll go elsewhere. But make sure you follow your own process because that will always be a key for long-term profitability. That is all the time that we have for today. Back again tomorrow at 3:30 for the waiver wire Q&A with myself and JJ Zachariason. And again, we'll just stick around and do the MLB DFS Q&A right after that, and that'll start around 4 p.m. as always. So make sure you subscribe to the FanDuel YouTube page or Twitch, Periscope, and Facebook, and tune in tomorrow at 3:30 to get all that information. If you have additional questions for me, I am on Twitter at JimSannes, JimSannes. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network for all our podcasts at FanDuel Podcasts. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, from the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in and asking really good questions as always. Good luck for you tonight. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. This has been the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A.